Hi, what's going on guys? It's Almond. Welcome back to another Wizard101 video. In today's video, I'm going to look at some of the themes and rings in the test shop from Hephaestus's test shop. These are going to be the themes and rings that are coming into live realm eventually, but the stats are subject to change. I know some of the gear at the moment is bugged, like the hat row boots, but I'm going to talk about that in a separate video. But I really wanted to focus on themes and rings for today's video due to the fact that they have universal stats now, and that's going to change how the systems are going to work in the future. I really think we should talk about it. I think it's really interesting. I honestly think it's just better outright than what we had before. So we'll talk all about that, and I'll give you guys my opinion. So if you do enjoy this type of content, be sure to leave a like, subscribe, all that type of stuff. And yeah, so let's talk about it. So obviously, if you're in test realm, you can go over here, go to the equipment, and let's look at the themes and rings, right? And I wanted to compare these to for example, I guess we can use the Aeon stuff, right? Of course the stat is lowered, right? You are losing 2 damage, right? But keep in mind, stats are subject to change. For all we know, that the themes and rings can be better or even worse, who knows? But the idea of concept is worth talking about. So just being able to have universal damage on basically both of these is just so much more better if you care about like dual schooling, of course, right? And depending on how they do the damage, of course, for your main school, it's going to be a better stat, right? It's just a combination, just split in half, which I do like. But it makes dual schooling a little bit better, because when we went and bought all these different themes and rings that had like different names, it was so annoying to just like, hey, I need to go get another Aeon ring, and I need to switch this out. I need to get another one, switch this out, another one, switch this out. It was going to be way more complicated down the line, especially with the new sockets. When we go to the jewels and we go to circle sockets, imagine wanting to have 10% damage jewels and stuff like that as well. So you would have to have more setups. So depending on what you want to do, maybe you want pierce sockets, outgoing, whatever, depending on the unique setup you want to build down the line, well, you would have to get even more rings and themes. This kind of limits it, and you're gonna use less. You still are going to use multiple, depending if you want to have different types of setups, but hey, it's still pretty interesting even thinking about it, right? 100%. And the sockets are very interesting as well. So we're moving away from some of this stuff. The Reaver is supposed to be an Aeon upgrade, right, from what it seems like. And the Stalker is like eternal gear, right? So if we're thinking about eternal gear, and we're thinking about what's it called, Aeon gear, right? But you can see the damage, right? It's a 1% damage difference, but of course subject to change. But the jewels is the interesting portion, right? So we still have the tier circle, but instead of a triangle, you're getting a square, right? And on this one, instead of a circle, you're getting a square. So theoretically, you can have more HP on this setup. You can still have like that damage and pierce socket. You still have access to the triangle, so it can be like accuracy or pip chance or any of the new jewels down the line. But the square one is interesting because, hey, what if like I already have enough accuracy? Hey, I already have enough pips. Having a square socket for extra health is not bad. You can do other things as well. It doesn't have to be health. It can be, for example, flat res, if that's something that you still want to use. Stun resist, you can use incoming jewels, but just remember, for advanced combat, that's going to be just disabled. And what's it called, crit block, maybe you want that, or even the outgoing new jewels that are coming out, right? If we go back over here, and there is outgoing jewels you can socket, so it gives you versatility for just having different setups on multiple schools. I think this change is really good, and not many people are talking about it. I've kind of talked about it on stream multiple times, saying like, hey dude, I think this is a really good change, because just being able to have, like, let's say I wanted to have 3 different rings or something like that, right? Or 3 different themes. Now I can just have like separate jewel sockets on them, like pierce, damage, whatever. Of course, I'm gonna have, like, by default, 3 themes, 3 rings, due to the fact that, hey, what if I want to have a damage setup, or a pierce setup, or even just half and half? Like, what if I want 1 pierce, 1 damage socket? Of course, whenever I make my gear setup videos down the line, I'm hopefully I can make them by the end of test roam. That's the goal, but it really comes down to how efficient they are going to be like fixing stuff, because of course I can't make a damage setup if some of this gear is bugged. So that's something that we have to keep in mind. And we're still waiting on Hunhao and Shabab upgrades. So depending on all that things, right, I'm really praying that they just make a shop in here. I'm praying Cam does, where it's just another shop where you can just buy Hunhao and Shababa gear, so we can just make gear setups in test realm and just mess around with a lot of things, because I think that would be fun. And being able to like preemptively make videos down the line is perfect. It would just make content making easier, and just being able to like preemptively knowing what you want to farm ahead of time, right? I think that's a good thing to keep in mind as well. But also when it comes to sockets as well, right? So now back to the thing what I was talking about. It does make it easier, right? It makes it way more easier. It was way more confusing. Like for example, if we go all the way to let's just go over to the guild house, right? If we go to the guild house quickly and we actually go visit the vendor, everyone knows this. It was like, to me, it was just overcomplicated for no reason. But I mean, players have voiced their opinions. But the names and rings, like if we go back and look at these, like there were so many names and rings for every school, just so many different ones, right? And it's just something that we have to keep in mind. Now that we're going to a different route down the line with the universal damage, it kind of just makes these like useless. Now you can just depend. I don't even know if they're going to touch nullity. I don't think so, right? In my opinion, I think these are just going to be like left here, but they might adjust these to have like the correct stats, but I don't think they're going to make 170 versions of nullity. But we do know that they're going to make 170 Hunhao and Shababa gear, so we'll see by there if they have a universal damage on those as well. It would be nice, right? It would be nice, but it's mainly for players that are like, hey, I want to dual school, etc. It makes their life easier, because I can see wanting to like have different setups and you're gonna have to have way more themes and rings. This just makes it so much more easier. And with the pins, of course, we do have upgraded pins. I think I have 170 on here. Yeah, we have the upgraded pins as well, and you can get some crazy damage, right? Like of course this is not even like really good damage, like what, 147, and I'm not even using pins on some of my gear. So like if we even put more pins, right, for example, let's just mess with some of these stats. Apparently the wand is also having universal damage as well, so we'll look at that later as well in a different video. But let's just, for example, put on all the universal stuff, right? We can put on let's see, do we have, I don't even think I have the amulet, right? No, I do have the amulet. And then let's put on this ring, right? And I have some universal stats on the pet, so we can keep that in mind. So just with this setup alone, I mean, yes, I am still missing out on some accuracy, but I can socket that on. Or is it? So I'm at 21. Of course I can just socket on the amulet, because there's a triangle socket on there and that gives me perfect accuracy. But just 183 damage without me even having like trying at all, really, like depending on how easy it is to get these pins, that's crazy even to think about, right? And with the wand even giving universal damage, like even with other schools I still have decent damage. I'm still having like 57, right? Of course stats are subject to change, and on top of that, right, this is just 221 by default on fire. Now imagine if I socketed on, like for example, like myth damage, right? Let's just take that in consideration. That's right here, that's 20% damage, right? I can be at 203 myth damage, right? Of course the pierce is still 36, which I don't even think that's like terrible, but even then, like you can have 203 damage, and then on top of that, if I use this other socket, that's 210. That's a lot. I mean, even if I wanted to reduce this, right, but I'm putting it on fire, but still you can have some really high dual school damage without even have to trying. Like this, another thing that we also have to consider is you can even like try school, like maybe have, instead of having all your damage in one school, maybe you want to go half and half on another school. But now you can even do it where you can have 3 separate schools. Like maybe I just want to do elemental schools or something like that, or maybe just spirit schools or something like that, or maybe even like fires, I don't know, maybe fire, storm, and myth or something like that, right? You can do those things now. Of course your stats are going to be a little bit lowered, but that is now actually like basically possible. Of course, it's not going to be like crazy. You're not going to have like you know, min-max damage on each 3, but you can get pretty high damage on all 3 just even thinking about that, right? So I can, if this stays, you know, makes it way all the way to live realm, I think this should be like a permanent change moving forward, right? Especially for dual schooling or just even universal setups. It makes it better, right? It's if you think about it, in a way it's better alpha and mega rings and better Blade of the Fell Titans that just were like left alone for like such a long time. Because I know for dual schooling, for example, like Dire doesn't have like a good Athame and ring setup. I know players were using like alpha and mega rings and like somewhat like the I believe the Aphrodite Athame, I could be wrong about that, but I remember someone using like Aphrodite stuff just to even achieve decent stats, but you were lacking HP. And this is literally Blade of the Fell Titan but better. So hopefully this makes its way to live realm. I think it's a big change. It should be on all gear moving forward 100%. It makes things less complicated for new players and not having to like, okay, well, oh, I have to go get this version of the ring but for this specific school, but I need this specific type for my dual school, etc. Right? So it makes it a lot more easier for new players, and even moving forward with universal setups, it just makes it better. So that's my opinion or my take on the Athames and rings. We'll talk more about the gear in a separate video. I'll probably talk about how like my first impressions are, and then definitely once it's fixed and you know we know what the actual stats are, I will give another video regarding that as well. So hope you guys enjoyed all the videos that have been coming out. Be sure to leave a like, subscribe, all that type of stuff. Join the Discord if you haven't down below, and I'll talk to you guys in the next one. Peace out, guys.